It's our man Jeff McLane joins us now. Jeff, before we get into the drama, I want to do the opposite of last week. We didn't get to the defense till the very end, so let's start with the defense, Jeff. Let's start with
what drama are we talking about?
I'll let you pick. You can be the guy that picks whatever drama. But let's start with the defense. Incredible performance again against the Detroit Lions, holding them to just 9 points. When you see the way the Eagles' offense is playing, do you still feel comfortable saying, man, this defense can win them any game against any team from now until hopefully the Super Bowl?
Yeah, I don't know about any team or any game, but it certainly can get them to pretty damn far. So, and I understand in this city it's not good enough. You know, you got to win the Super Bowl now. But it's pretty good, and obviously they've beaten two good teams these last 2 weeks, and you know they went out in Green Bay and won on the road, and then they won against the Lions on a short week after traveling against good offenses. You know, that defensive line is playing really well, and they did so against good above average offensive lines. So we'll see how it plays out. It wasn't perfect, right? And this isn't the entire season. This is just the last two games. Although you started seeing it trending in the right direction after that disaster up in New York. But yeah, they're playing really well.
Jeff, you are a guy, and part of the reason I love reading your work is because you are very much in the moment. You're not writing about comparison to last year. You're writing about what is going on at the time. We had a conversation this morning. How much do you, just as when you analyze football teams and everything, do you take pedigree and what's been accomplished in the past into consideration when you're thinking they're going to get this stuff fixed?
Yeah, I think that can be brought into the equation because, right, a lot of people in this team won a Super Bowl, and starting with the head coach, right? So, and a lot of them were on the 2022 team that went there, and a lot of these guys have been on just winning teams since 2021. So, and Nick brought this up after the game. I assume you're talking about the quote when he was saying now, he's watching games, and it seemed like some of the teams are just waiting to lose, whereas if the Eagles, his players, he believes are just waiting to win.
Exactly.
And I think there's some truth to that. Maybe it's a little bit of anecdotal, and obviously he came out on the winning side, so you could say that. They have lost twice this year, and they have lost at various times over the years. So it's not perfect, but I think there's something to be said for that. It's hard to quantify, but the results speak for themselves.
All right, so let's talk about some of the drama, because now all of a sudden it seems like attention is being turned toward the quarterback. I'm not asking you to report on anything specific, Jeff, but what I'm going to ask you is, with all of this drama, because we know the tweets from AJ, the Twitch from AJ, and now there's stuff on Jalen Hurts, is there enough sort of under the surface that's not necessarily public that should cause concern for Eagles fans when you still know that they are 8-2 and they find ways to overcome regardless what we want to talk about?
Yeah, look, again, when it's talking about Jalen, I just reported or just kind of gave a summation of what I thought A.J. Brown's problem was last week in my podcast, and kind of came to the conclusion that I think it's it's everything. Clearly, right, when you talk about it, it can't be just one thing. But it can be one thing more than another. And my conclusion was that, based upon what I know, my reporting, or just other people involved in the whole the whole drama, I guess, or whatever you want to call it, is that it's Jalen and how he plays the position, and and I'll just kind of end it there. But that being said, it's not like he's not looking at himself and looking at other people, or it's not that, look, again, when it comes to quarterback, he has a lot on his plate. He has a lot on his shoulder. He's under more pressure than anybody in that building, save for probably Nick Sirianni, as I said in the podcast. So when you are writing about the quarterback, you have to take that all into context, right? I've reported about this before 2 years ago. Jalen, there was definitely issues with him with certain guys in the locker room and with certain, I guess maybe the way that he was kind of handling things. They wanted him to kind of step up a little more in how he kind of handles things. Sometimes when it comes to football, when it comes to kind of building relationships. And for the most part, I was told he very much did that last year. And look, he is who he is, right? We know he is a stoic. We know that he kind of is guarded. And maybe sometimes that makes it difficult. But, I think probably more than anything, it's just kind of the football part of it. And you see it out there on the field at times. He can be trigger shy, and they're seeing a lot of zones, and I think those give him trouble at times. That being said, I don't know if the scheme is giving him all the answers that he needs to, and I felt that ever since he's come into this offense for the most part, that it's not always there for him, especially whatever they've improved the blitz, whatever, and then the play calling now with Kevin Patul, I think everyone can agree it's not great, and then the one thing I want to add into this, and I think I haven't heard enough of this, and when you watch the film, is the talent there? Everyone keeps talking about 10 or 11 starters returning, but I don't know, are like guys just slipping just a touch at every position or more positions than most, and is that affecting the overall functionality of the offense? So, look, I understand the questions about the quarterback, but I think you have to put everything in perspective when you are talking about him.
You have seen teams go off the rails. You've seen teams fix their problems. When you look at the makeup of the 2025 Eagles, are you of the belief that this is a team that has the internal makeup to put this stuff aside and to fix these things, the football stuff and the non-football stuff?
Yeah, I do. Yeah, I don't know how much of it is, I like to talk about the football part of it, and I think more than anything, that is a big part of it. But, there's also just kind of like communication and getting to the bottom of it and trying to solve it, and that's all part of it. But, look, I mean, I understand. I don't think the Vikings were anything great, but that's a good defense, and that's a good defensive coordinator, and Jalen in that second half in that game was perfect, right? It wasn't that very long ago. And then against the Giants, I thought he executed what they wanted to do. Not a great defense, but they were able to run the ball. It's been pretty bad these last two games, but they still found a way to win, and Jalen then turned the ball over, and that gets back to Nick's philosophy and the kind of grounded out way that he kind of calls the game. And look, it's not aesthetically pleasing. I get it, but they're 8-2, and I mean with 2 more wins, considering what happens with other teams, it may take 3 wins now that the Cowboys won last night, but. They could have the NFC clinched pretty quickly. It's obviously that number 1 seed is important, but right now they're actually sitting atop the NFC. So I guess I'm looking at it more from the glass is half full part of it, which a lot of people would say is not how not typically my personality. But I think I do think Nick and I do think a lot of these players and his coaching staff deserve the benefit of the doubt for a little bit.
I'm curious because you're obviously entrenched with this team, and you know a lot about the inner workings of this football team. I'm sure you see it on social media. There are a lot of people that say that a lot of the drama is media driven, or we just make it seem worse than it actually is, or let's just choose to ignore it because they're 8-2, which I believe that last one makes sense. They're 8-2. They find ways to overcome it. So I will ask you, Jeff, with all the drama that there is it so drastic to the point where it needs to get fixed as soon as possible? Or do you think the drama is a little overblown and you think there will be fine moving forward?
Yeah, absolutely overblown. Yeah. I mean, look, I did a lot of digging in last week just after the whole A.J. Brown thing, and it was something they had to deal with. It was not business as usual down there, even though Nick says it was, but it's nowhere near inside what it is on the outside. And I think that this, honestly, I really haven't been paying attention with what's just chatter has been going out there with Jalen Hurts because, I know what I know about the whole Jalen Hurts situation, and I feel like I have a better handle on anyone in the media, to be quite frankly. So, if I haven't really come out and reported anything, I just don't think it. I don't think it has risen to the level that I guess it sounds like you guys are talking about. As I said in my podcast, go listen to it, Uncovering the Birds. I mean, like, I do feel like it's, Jalen's a big part of what, how guys are viewing what's wrong with the offense. Absolutely. He's a quarterback, though. That's all part of it as well. I do want to throw in there real quick, not to just change speeds on you. I take back a little bit of what I said about whether this team can get there, because if Lane Johnson is done for the season,
right
now they're saying 4 to 6 weeks, but from what I understand is he has to have the doctor still look at his he can't get X-rays until his inflammation is down. If he needs surgery, that means the season is over, and we all know when Lane's not in there, what happens to this team typically. And I'm not taking anything away from Fred Johnson and what he's done, but
right.
That would be pretty big major reason for concern. Cam Jurgens left the game early last week, and he's been playing through injury. So I don't know how much of a downgrade that's been with Brett Toth, who's kind of stepped in and done the job pretty good. But when every team that I've covered in this, every Eagles team that I've covered that has not performed well, or when things have gone downhill, it's almost always because the offensive line has suffered multiple major injuries. Obviously, they got through the one in 2017 with Jason Peters, but that was just one spot, and they were so strong at the other 4 that they were able to account for that. But keep an eye on this Lane Johnson thing.
Jeff, listen, man,
Great job, Jeff.
You're the best, which is why, what you said about yourself, it's why we have you on every single week.
And listen to the podcast.
Yeah,
it's
Uncovering
really, really
the
good stuff.
Birds. It's tremendous. We appreciate your time as always, brother, and we'll talk to you next week.
All right, guys. Thanks for having me.
There he is, Jeff McLane on the Comcast Business Hotline. Check out his work on the Inquirer and Inquirer.com. I love that he gave himself a little pat on the back.
Jeff McLane chest day.
Yeah, dude.
Yeah, he's done pretty well in his.
He's great.
Again, he is voted by his peers the top beat writer in the NFL.
Yeah,
by his peers, not by himself.
And now look, what you heard him say, much more overblown on the outside than the inside. Jeff McLane, a guy that a lot of people say, oh, he hates the team. Well, if he says that, then maybe everybody should listen to Jeff McLane and say, oh, okay. Thanks, Jeff. Right? If he's the one that's saying it, the guy that a lot of people think hates the Eagles, then that should go a long way for people.
It should.
Hey, guys, Andrew Salciunas, host of Kincade and Salciunas. Just want to thank you for checking out all of our great videos that we have on our YouTube channel every single day. Make sure, if you can, please like and subscribe and check out all the videos that we have on our YouTube channel, whether it's for us, Kincade and Salciunas, of course, our midday show, as well as Unfiltered with Bill and Ricky.